The Panasonic GH4 is a fantastic video camera. Maybe not camcorder, but it can do amazing videos. It's got so many options in terms of frames per second, in terms of bit rates, in terms of field of views and all that kind of stuff. So I thought I'd go test it because there's one of the things where you have an option between the bit rate of your video files. You can choose 50 or 25 frames a second. You can choose a high bit rate of 200 megabits a second, or 100 megabits a second, or down to 50 megabits a second. Now remember, megabits, megabytes, there's a difference between memory cards' read speed, which are megabytes. Meanwhile, this is talking about megabits. So even at 200 megabits a second, the fastest your memory card needs to be able to record at is only about 25 megabytes a second. So all the kind of extreme pros and all that kind of stuff will do this, not a problem. I even shot some of this video at on a class 6 memory card. It's a pretty old one. It says Pro spec, but it's class 6, only 150x. And I managed to do 4K video at 25 frames a second, and I managed to do 200 megabits a second. The thing was, I was only shooting for about 10 seconds each time, so it may have just been that was the amount I was able to keep in the buffer. So here I'm trying to see, is there an observable difference between the different bit rates? So there's lots of different options. I can do it in a .mov, an MP4, an AV, CHAD, all that kind of stuff. But I just did it in a .mov video format, and I varied the frame rates, the bit rates here. I did 4K, which I've taken out of this video because it's a completely different frame. It's hard to analyze here. And I thought this was a pretty good scene because it's a high dynamic range. You've got a good gradation in the actual image, from bright sunshine down here to blue sky over here. You've also got movement in this, what do you call it, carousel? Going around in circles. So maybe you can see the difference in 25 to 50 frames a second footage. And it is kind of a high detail image. You've got a lot of things going on. And shooting this at 7mm at f4, everything is nice and sharp. In fact, it wasn't f4, it's f5.6. Hold on, I'll just listen. Full 200 megabits a second, 50 frames a second, full HD, 100th of a second, ISO 200, 10 seconds. Okay, so I've put in all the details. What I'll do is I'll upload all of these to our website. I'll put in the link down below if you want to download these yourself to have a play with and see if you can see any differences. But so the difference in bitrate, I'm always a bit confused. Like, what does that actually get me apart from using up more memory card space? And what I would say is, straight off the bat, if I go, this one here was 200 megabits a second. I would say straight away, I'm thinking that looks overly sharp. So I was using this in vivid settings. I would say, yeah, maybe not. I would say the camera and the lens are just so incredibly sharp. I would say this is where a situation where I would say actually having the sharpening down low would benefit in both the editing and afterwards as well, because it just looks a bit too, it looks too sharp, which to a lot of photographers are like, what the hell are you on about too sharp? You can't have too sharp. In video, sometimes having a little bit of softness, or just having the, because like a lot of times you can just add the sharpness after in post, but having it in camera sharpness, I think sometimes isn't necessarily the best thing. You'll hear that a lot of people kind of saying that. So if I look straight at this one, it's fully rendered out, it's looking good here. We'll call this the baseline, that's 200 megabits a second. If I then go along to the second one here, that's 100 megabits a second. Am I seeing any difference? Apart from, okay, there's a little bit of cloud has come in, but these are effectively the same shots. I can't see a difference there. And then this next one, let's just double check this next one. Full 1080p, 50 frames a second, f5, 100th of a second, ISO 200 at 50 megabits. Okay, so this one was 50 megabits a second. And straight, like, looking at this, I'm going, am I seeing a difference? So this is potentially a quarter the size of the bitrate. So if I were to go from shot to shot, because what I thought, maybe it would bring in some more dynamic range, maybe a bit more color accuracy or something, but straight off the bat, if I go from 200 megabits, and again, I'm looking at the gradation. Again, if you're looking at this, what I'm looking at, you're seeing it compressed and exported and uploaded to YouTube. You may not be seeing it. So that's why I'm going to upload these all onto the site for you to download yourself to look clearly in your own situation. But to me, I cannot see any difference at all in the quality between 50 and 200 megabits a second. So I've then zoomed them in and I've layered them on top of each other. And the question is, can you see the separation between the two of them? Oh, wait, okay, you probably can now. So the first one only goes up to there, second one goes up to there, and I cannot see any difference whatsoever in terms of clarity, in terms of sharpness, in terms of dynamic range, in terms of color at all. It is spot on. If I were even to just move this up and down, is there any? Because again, I'm really thinking that somewhere in the sky, there's got to be a change in color, and absolutely nothing. So there's a slight movement. It must have just been from either the tripod settling in the mud a little bit, but otherwise, absolutely. Is there a color difference? Absolutely no difference at all. I cannot see it at all. Zip, nada, nothing. No difference I can see there. For what should be 4 times the difference of information. So the second question is, maybe it's about how much we can post-process the images. So let's have a little play around with that. Okay, so here is a simple one. I've brought the exposure down on the two of them down by 23%, and still no difference there. Okay, so maybe it's in the shadows. Maybe it's in the shadows that we'll see the differences. Okay, so here I've increased the exposure on both of them up to 23% up. And again, can you see where the line is? Yeah. I certainly can't, and this is me zoomed in as well. So if I were just to show you where the line is, there it is there. Can you? Is there any difference at all? Absolutely nothing. Nothing at all there. So that was a big difference. I then also went and so it was a movement shot. I went and did a kind of a stable shot. Again, obviously this being outside, you've got changes in slight kind of brightness, maybe a bit of a cloud somewhere and all that kind of stuff. But straight off the bat,
ISO 200, shooting for 10 seconds.
Straight off the bat, is there much that I can see difference? So this one, the first one, let's hear again.
50 frames a second, 200 megabits a second.
So this one's 200 megabits a second. Looks fine. If I go to the very last one, so this is the smallest frame file that I can get. This is only 25 frames a second and 50 megabits a second. Let's hear it.
5 frames a second, full HD, 50 megabits a second.
So, okay, so that's the two of them side by side. Let's have them overlaying each other. So here, I've got them over here. I can't see it. I cannot see the difference at all. And let's see. So okay, yeah, I totally forgot to put the crop there. If we apart from the fact that no, absolutely nothing. If we look at the building in the background, is there any difference at all? So here it is again, and from my point of view, looking at this on a full 27-inch iMac screen, I cannot see the quality difference between 50 megabits, 25 frames a second, to 200 megabits, 50 frames a second, which is somewhere around here. But I cannot see where it is. I need to click on the button. Oh yeah, so there it is. That's where it is. So you can see the person. That's where it is. absolutely no obvious difference whatsoever. If I were to play that,
150 megabits.
it's not in any way obvious for me to be able to see the difference between the two of them, and in simple editing wise of just exposure up or contrast down or all that kind of stuff, I am not seeing any observable difference between 200 megabits and 50 megabits, 25 frames a second, 50 frames a second on a still shot like this, with something with a lot of color gradation going on in the image as well. So what does that mean? The question is, what does that mean? This means pretty much for everything, I'm just going to be shooting at 50 megabits a second. I'm not seeing any quality increase by going up. All I'm seeing is more memory card use. That's pretty much it. So again, link for all this down in the description below. Cheers, bye bye.